PJNet Live as the Awake States live hashtag rally continues, and we are talking media bias, and we have a media expert here, and all the way from the United Kingdom, we have Luca Bocci. Now, Luca Bocci is actually a founding member of the Tea Party in Italy, but that's not why he's here today. He has been in the field of journalism for some 26 years, and he's been in it in Italy, he's been in it in Egypt, he's been in it in Germany, and he is now in it in the United Kingdom. So let's welcome Luca to the set here. Luca, you're in the media. You are biased.
I know, I sure am. And that's the first step towards, truly truth-based media. You should always go first and say that there is no way I can be impartial because my life experience and my the things that I've read, the things that I've gone through, they have biased me. So the first thing is to dispel the myth that the media like to propagate, the fact that it is possible to have a completely unbiased reporting of a story, of the news. So that is, I think, the first step that we should all say. We're all biased. And the important thing is to be clear and honest and saying that the way I am telling a story, it will definitely be biased. And then from that point, we can start having a conversation. I think that right now doesn't really happen that often.
Well, let's look at the extremes. In the Soviet Union and the old Cold War days, I would say that the media was biased behind the Iron Curtain.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
but that wasn't really a free media, was it? But I think the fact that the government did control, and I presume to a great extent probably still does, control the media is an indictment of the fact that control of the media is a way of controlling people's thoughts, people's opinions, and therefore their actions. So I remember a day when news was kind of news. It was really, that's the way it is this Thursday, blah, 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 but today, I don't even know if there's an appetite for pure news, if there is such a thing.
Not really. Actually, I've been moving on to my original focus as a journalist was, when I started out, it was always the kind of small town. I come from a small town in Tuscany, so it was the kind of small town reporting, the thing where actually you learn how to do this job. Mm-hmm. And then I moved on to international affairs, geopolitics, and stuff that I studied while in college, where I got a master's in international relations. So I transitioned into that, and I found out soon enough that you can't really make a living out of it if you're not willing to compromise and to actually say stuff that you don't really believe. So that is one thing that then, if you're not willing to compromise, they will find a way to make you redundant and to just go there and say, well, we don't actually need you. So we won't give you a job. We won't give you a position. And you're forced, like I did, to do many other things. I went from being a financial advisor to working as a mediator in international trade and doing all sorts of things that look very good, but they don't actually make you a lot of money. And then, as always, it's kind of a virus, journalism and stuff. I fell back into it. Now I'm doing sports, which has always been my passion, but it's got nothing to do with what I studied in my life. And even in sports, you see that there is bias. And it's not like my colleagues, most of them, they will consider themselves liberal. I'm pretty much one of the very few conservatives that are in my newsroom. And you always think that you don't want to take any political discussion or anything because you will find yourself with a wall of, I won't say hate or indifference or anything, but you can see that people clearly don't like what you're saying and don't like your viewpoint, and they're not really open to conversation, which is, I think, that the fact that is killing journalism nowadays. There is no conversation. We all talk to each other. We go on social media and we always read the news that appeal to us, and it's an echo chamber. It's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and you only know stuff that you like because, God forbid, you're challenged. God forbid, you're triggered, and you learn something from other people. God forbid. And that's why the political process is breaking down massively everywhere.
We see it like a frog boiling in the water. There's been a transition in the news media landscape over the past, couple, 3 decades, or at least a generation. You are more distant. Maybe you can see it differently. we haven't noticed it as much. We see it now that the water is boiling. But what's your take on the fairness in the media here in the United States as an observer from abroad?
Well, I can tell that there were people that were pretending to be objective, and they're still pretending to be that. But nowadays, it's very, 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 very clear that they're not. So they are not just underreporting the story, but they are completely disregarding anything that is damaging to their political part, or to the political part that support at the moment their owners. Because nowadays, we've all got family, so we all want to keep our job because the jobs are going. Newspapers are being closed down. They go digital, then they massively downsize, and then people find themselves without a job. Happens everywhere. And, in the newsroom, every single time you hear the word, reorganization, people start to fear and say, oh my God, how am I going to pay my mortgage and stuff? And so you're so obsessed by the fact of losing your job that nowadays it's become second nature. You don't even question it anymore. You're not just saying, I'm a reporter, my duty is to my viewers. Because even the viewers don't really want the news. They just want to have their own opinions and belief reinforced.
Yeah, exactly. I think you said it earlier. I think that there is no appetite for really objective journalism. It would be rather boring. I think we're looking for affirmation.
I don't think so. I don't think it would be boring because it's boring only if it's not well made. Mm-hmm. But doing it well requires a level of investment of time, effort, research, and everything that nowadays very few news organizations can really afford. You don't have, like you had in the past 6 months, to have an editor at large going there and follow a big story. You don't have it anymore. Nowadays, you want 6 stories a day. And how can you do that if you're not just picking them from some random website or just magnifying something that you read on Twitter and building a story out of thin air? You don't do it. You can't do it because the economics of news nowadays, it's just like that. It's just the more clicks you get, the more misleading titles you do, the more sensational stories you put out, the more clicks you're going to get and the safer your job is going to be. And it's not happening just by case. It's happened by design. Because the only thing that people really fear is a free, informed, and educated media that actually gives news to a free, informed, and educated audience, which becomes voters. Then they will not fall for the latest trick, or they will not fall for the latest guy that goes there and promised them the moon and everything without actually saying how he's going to pay for it.
Has it worked? With the sensationalism and with the agenda setting, I would say there's an impact, but I would summarize the impact as simply polarizing the two camps. I don't know that it's really changed anything. How much would you agree or disagree with that?
It has changed, obviously, because polarization just becomes a shouting war. So nobody really talks anymore. There is no conversation. There is no finding the middle ground anymore. When they say that politics and parties should always try to bridge the political divide and go and talk to the other side, that doesn't happen anymore because demonization of the adversary, of the political adversary, has become so commonplace nowadays that you think that Donald Trump is the evil incarnate or Hillary Clinton is evil incarnate, and so you don't make deals with the devil, so you go there and you fight it. Mm-hmm. And that's very comforting for some people because you say, I am with the good and the evil. Yeah, the adversary is not someone that disagrees with you. It's someone that is evil incarnate. So, of course, you fight them with all your strength and you don't really need to worry anymore. You don't need to educate yourself. You don't need to read more. You don't need to read between the lines. You just accept things at face value, and you're just saying, oh, look at this, chemtrails, yes, of course, makes sense. Obviously, to understand why this happens and that there is no such thing as chemtrails, you would need to read a lot more than people actually have time for and educate yourself. So that's why you tend to believe these sensational stories and to build a mountain out of thin air. But obviously, this kind of cycle is coming to a breaking point because now you can see the results of this madness, because you can see that there are people that are not giving vaccines to their children. And you can see there are all diseases that are coming back because people have read on the internet, God forbid, that there is this thing. And I think it's not something that just happened. There is a lot of disinformation being going on, and a lot of people being paid by, I don't know, foreign governments, or I don't know, people that have more, they want more power and everything, to just spread this kind of thing, because they let the genie out of the bottle. They had the internet. They gave people the freedom to go there and actually learn without filter. And they are terrified of that. So they had to find a way to destroy the internet. And that is what they came up with. Chaos, complete chaos. 100 million people talking at the same time, just talking to their friends or to people who think alike. And that is what kills a civilization. And it wasn't something that just happened. They're making it this way.
What's interesting, when you mentioned the internet, I mean, that was my next question. The media has been rather inaccessible. So if you assume a liberal media bias, that leaves us ordinary people with very little leverage to put weight on the other side of the scales. But then came the internet, then came social media. Now, today, in light of your opinion of chaos, if you could organize that chaos, the internet could, in fact, be the media, a grassroots media outlet, and it could, level the playing field, could it not?
That's very difficult. That is very difficult. I believed in that for a very long time, and unfortunately, as I become older and I start to look things from a certain perspective, I think that there are no shortcuts. So if you go there and you respect the foundation of journalism, and you do your homework and you study a lot and you go there, you cannot make a living out of it. So that is really the big problem. Citizen journalism is actually something that doesn't really make no sense, because if you're doing it right, then you're a journalist who happens to be a citizen, because there are no shortcuts. This is the stuff that I've been telling to people. I've been traveling when I could, back in 2011 and then 2012, where I collaborated a bit with the Ted Cruz campaign in Texas, and then other times where I've been to Alabama and Florida and Texas again to talk to people and try to explain actually what could be my perspective on what was happening in America. I just say, people, there are no shortcuts. You have to do your things, even if it looks slow, even if it looks very difficult and everything. That is a big problem. You cannot take the shortcut. And as the same thing happens, I don't really think that a citizen journalist by itself can do a thing. And I don't really think that a network can be as effective, because there are certain things that take time and energy and effort and money to do. And because if it takes you 6 months to come with another Clinton Foundation, scandal and stuff, who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay your bills? In order to do that, you will need a big enough audience that allows you not to have a video every 2 days, not to, make a story every day and everything, but you will need to focus completely on a single story. And in order to do that, you need something that may be different from traditional media, but has kind of the same structure and allows you the freedom to go there and do actually what needs to be done. So I think that people need to be involved, but I also believe that in order to do things, you have to be adhering to the ethics and the morals and the groundwork that is required and the fundamentals of being a journalist. So maybe that's a bit selfish, because I've been a journalist and I've struggled really hard to find a way to become a professional journalist. But I think that there are no shortcuts. And so a network of people can be very effective if you are a pressure group, if you want to actually distinguish from people that have other self-interest, and to vet candidates and to have a certain role. But not everybody can be a journalist. There will always be space for a dedicated group of people who are paid to go there and do the kind of digging that most people don't have time to. And that is the problem, because it's the economics of the media that makes the media universe biased towards liberals. Because liberals, they put money into that. They know how important it is. They learned their lesson from the Soviet era, from the early years of socialism, from the Fabian Society and so on. They learned that if you control the media, you control the narrative. If you control the narrative, you control academia. If you control academia, you control the minds of the children, and then you control a country. They know what is done. And unfortunately, from our side of the political spectrum, nothing like that has happened. Everybody's putting money because they want to make money, and it's great. But they have to just take the longer game and see that actually in the long run, if there is an institution that manages to coalesce enough talent and determination and honesty and integrity, people will fly to that, because nowadays there is only one thing that is in common between every media. Nobody trusts them anymore. You watch the news and it's like watching Vremya, which was the newscast in the Soviet Union. Everybody knew that there were lies. Everybody knew that nothing that they said was the truth. Everybody knew that, but they still watched that because there was nothing else.
There was nothing else. Well, Luca, that is a bleak forecast, but nonetheless, you're in a position to know, and we need to know what we're up against. Luca, thank you for making time to be with us tonight, all the way from the UK, and we wish you well, and hopefully we can follow up again.
Well, it'll be my pleasure.